One of the most interesting people in the world of American literature had a fascinating life and an even more extremely mysterious death. Internationally acclaimed and legendary poet, horror and gothic writer, Edgar Allan Poe. He was born January 19, 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts, to parents Elizabeth and David Poe, who were tuberculosis. Poe went to live with a man named John Allan, thought to be his godfather, and Edgar spent time with him in Scotland before returning to Richmond, Virginia. He was educated at the University of Virginia, but wasn't allowed to continue his education due to constant gambling at school. He met and became engaged to a woman named Sarah Elmira Royster, and would begin writing and publish his first work, a pamphlet called Tamerlane and Other Poems, in 1827. He would eventually join the U.S. military academy called West Point somewhere around 1830, as he was very broke at the time. Edgar Allan Poe was expelled from the academy, as he never went to any classes and paid no attention to his fiancée, who would eventually leave him and marry somebody else. Single, broken, in debt, he traveled to New York in February of 1831, and by then released his third book of poems, and while none of his efforts were very successful commercially, some of his poetry in these books are considered now to be masterpieces. Writing full-time wasn't considered much of a profession, partially due to zero copyright laws. A lot of his work was reprinted without permission or pay, and Edgar Allan Poe was one of the very first people to try and make a professional career as a writer without any other source of income. Publishers at the time were known to not pay their authors even after using their work, and it was often humiliating to Poe to have to beg for the money he was owed. He started working at various newspapers as a writer and editor, but was eventually fired due to alcohol abuse and general inability to stay sober on the job. In 1835, he got a marriage license and was wed to his 13-year-old cousin, Virginia Clem, and they were together for 11 years, right up until the time of her death from tuberculosis, just like Poe's mother. From a very early age and right up until his death, Edgar Allan Poe had a problem with alcohol. It's said that he was rarely seen drunk in public, but when he was, it was affecting him to the point that people thought he had a severe drug addiction. Despite his issues with the bottle, some of his greatest writing was done from the period of 1838 and on, including The Fall of the House of Usher, The Mask of the Red Death, and The Pit and the Pendulum. Edgar Allan Poe's most famous works included The Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Telltale Heart, and The Raven, which was written in 1845 but still discussed and taught today, over 170 years later. On October 3, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe is found screaming in great distress and in need of immediate assistance. He wasn't coherent, was wearing clothes that didn't belong to him, and kept repeating and screaming the name Reynolds. He died October 7, 1849, and it's been said that his final words were, "Lord help my poor soul." His cause of death is a mystery, and the possible causes include rabies, syphilis, heart disease, or cholera. Edgar Allan Poe, legendary American writer, was only 40 years old at the time of his bizarre death, but will leave a lasting impression with the literature he left behind forever.